Yeah, my name is Greg Rojas. I'm based out of Tampa, Florida, so I'm not in the lovely state of North Carolina. I'm just a little south of you. I have come to North Carolina quite a few times. I do love the state. Love your highways better than South Carolina. Just throwing that out there. I have been doing Microsoft. I've been with Microsoft for many years now, just doing Teams and and SharePoint and the modern workplace, all the things that you use almost every day. I will tell you, I'm going to say, number one, congratulations, because you have all passed the first test. That's just getting into this meeting. You click join the meeting. Guess what? You're rocking and rolling. So let us begin. Did I, let me see if I could take control. Did I move the slides already forward, Michelle, or no?
No.
No, you did. Okay, I thought I could. Trying to see, there's no option to take control. All right, no big deal. Let's just go ahead and go on to the next slide. That picture, by the way, that little background back there is the campus at Microsoft. Go ahead. Yeah, thank you. And I have been to Redmond, Washington many times, and I have never seen it sunny. But that's our campus right across the building. On the right-hand side is where our lunches are served. You know, we can buy lunch over there. There's a bike rentals. There's a whole lot of cool stuff, but I've never seen it sunny. And you know, they say it rains over 200 days a year over there, and that's just depressing for me. All right, let's go on to the next slide. Thank you. So we're going to get into an introduction to Teams. We kind of want to get the foundation. Like I said, you've already passed the first test because you already got into the test. So that's a kudos to you. Go ahead, next slide, please. I know this is kind of odd that we're saying, well, what is this Teams thing? That's what you're currently using, and it's great. But what it is, it's more than just, hey, I can send a message or I can attend the meeting. It's so much more. But what I'm hoping to do by the end of our session here, kind of lay out a foundation of, oh, I didn't know I can do those things. Now, also, that's what that means. So what we're going to do is we're going to work through the Teams app itself, kind of cover some other capabilities. Next slide, please. So with the fact that you are a government cloud, okay, your information is reserved only in a government sovereign cloud. So Microsoft has divided this data. There's a commercial cloud, which is, well, a lot of people, you know, anything .com, Sears, Disney, you name it. Then there's the government. Those of us that work in the state and local government industry, anything with a .gov type of email address. FBI, CIA, they're also part of the 365 environment. They're what's called the government cloud high, and then there's the DoD. So it's all kind of segmented, it's segmented out, but it's available to only those that are inside of that government cloud. Can it be shared outside? Yes. But initially, that data resides, doesn't commingle with the commercial space or the GCC high or the DoD. Okay, everything that you put in SharePoint and in Teams and emails and all that stuff, it is all your data. It is never once Microsoft. We don't have access to it. We can't touch it. We can't read it. We can't access these types of things because it is your data. So just feel comfortable at least knowing that, hey, when I put something in Teams, when I share a file inside of our team and inside of our channel, that kind of stuff, it is not viewable by by Microsoft folks because it is restricted to you. Okay. Next slide, please. So what I need to tell you is this desktop, if you're using the desktop client, go ahead and click to the next slide. There are different types of clients. And if you're using all three, great. If you haven't used all three, it's available as well. So we do have a web client that is just, you go to a certain web address and guess what? It'll work in your Chrome, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Mac Safari. It works in, what's the other one? There's a couple other browsers that do you, but I wanted to put the three most popular out here that we all use every day. So in order to access Teams, you can access it by any one of these. Where you see the desktop client, if that's what's installed on your computer, your work laptop, that's what you're using right now. And then there's the mobile clients, as you can see, We also can attend meetings, make phone calls, share files from a mobile device. So it's Android, iOS, so it doesn't always have to be a cell phone, but it could be an iPad or some type of tablet, okay? There is a bullet on the bottom that says they all require an internet connection because there's no such thing as, well, let me just write this message in Teams and I'll send it later. It'll give a big old banner across the top saying, hey, you're offline. And until you get back online, this message won't be sent. Go ahead, next slide. All right, mention Google Edge, Chrome, and I'm sorry, Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, and the Mac Safari. If you wanted to access the web-based version of Teams without this desktop, without your laptop or your iPad, whatever, you can go directly to teams.microsoft.com. If you authenticate with your nc.gov email address, you are going to be inside of Teams just as if you were in the office. There is no difference, no advantage one over the other. They all work exactly the same. There are no additional capabilities from the desktop versus the browser. So they all work interchangeably too. So if you send a message while you're on the web and you close the browser and you finally open up your desktop or you open up your mobile device, you'll see that same exact message. Next, please. But we're desktop clients, as you might have known, well, it's available for Windows. Obviously, that's what we're all using, but there's also the Mac OS desktop client. There are certain restrictions with regards to operating systems, and it's kind of listed in that second column there. We're looking at Windows 8 plus 0.1 is higher, and that's really actually very old. We have now Windows 11, and Windows 10 is looking to retire in about sometime next year. So Windows 8 is, well, that's even older, but it does work on those different platforms. Okay? So same thing, if you're working on your desktop, you can continue your conversation on your mobile, you can continue a call directly from your web browser, either which way. There's really no need to download a client unless you absolutely wanted to, but you can see teams.microsoft.com/downloads. Maybe you want to install it on your home computer, not your personal, not your work laptop, but your home computer. Then you can go to teams.microsoft.com/download and download it. Notice the cool thing at the bottom there, it says does not require admin rights on a PC, but it does on the Mac. So as long as you have administrator type of level on your personal Mac, you want to install it, absolutely, you still can. Next slide, please. So now we want to talk some features. Kind of talked about how do I get into Teams via the web, via the application on my desktop or my mobile. But now that I'm in, what can I do? Do you mind going to the next slide, please? So first things first, the cool thing about Microsoft Teams is not only does my desktop, but my web browser, they look identical. The icons that you're going to see on the left-hand side, which is called the rail, those icons that are available on the left, they're also available on the left in the web version. So as you can see, there's a lot of things pinned on this particular rail. These are all, this, by the way, should be what you would be able to see in your Teams client right now. And we're going to cover each one of these, but as we go through, go ahead and go on to the next slide for me, please. The first option is Viva Connections. Love me some Viva Connections because it keeps me as an employee engaged and knowing what's going on in the tenant or as well as my agency. We're working to mature the Viva Connections in the state of North Carolina's tenant to ensure that when we post information, it's just not always and only statewide info. Maybe we want things specific to my agency. Let's post it. Let's audience target that information to just the Department of Revenue, or the Department of Agriculture, or whatever agency you happen to be in. This way, when you log into Viva Connections, it's personalized to you. Okay? But of course, there could be statewide notifications, such as there could be new job announcements. Okay. Diane is asking the question, while I'm in this training, how do I see those sidebars? If You don't see it on the side because you're in this particular meeting and it's a separate window behind, or might be on top, excuse me, of your current Teams client. You would have to just toggle back. Michelle, would you bring up your Teams client over top of this? So because she is presenting and because she's in this meeting, this is kind of hidden behind. So there you see her left rail there where you see all the different icons. And we're going to continue those as we go through the different slides. So if you wanted to see it, Diane, that's you would just toggle back. All right, let's go back to the presentation, please. Okay. One more. So we covered Viva Connections. Let's go down to the next one. The next one is kind of pretty important too. It's called the activity bar. Oh, and by the way, guys, you guys are going to get all of these slides. So if you remember how Greg said something about one of these things, but I don't remember what it does, all the slides are going to become available to you later today or tomorrow. I'm not sure when they're posting them up there, but they'll be up there. So you can refer back to this presentation to say, that's what that meant. So I want to talk a little bit right now about activity. This is really important because it kind of keeps you on the in case you missed it option, right? If you missed something, your activity bar is going to light up. You see this particular one happens to have a 1 on there. This meant that you missed something somewhere. Someone either mentioned you, okay, and that at mention, you see there's that, it's that very first bullet on the right hand side. If someone says, "Hey," at Diane Beth, you're going to get a notification so you can go back and say, "Oh, who mentioned me? Oh, okay, right here in this team, in this channel, somebody mentioned my name regarding, oh, okay, here's a task I've got to follow up on." Okay, as well as other teams that you may belong to, and people are posting new comments or people are posting new things inside of there. It keeps you notified of what's, excuse me, what's happening, is including if you posted a comment and somebody replied, then you'll know that, hey, there was a reply to a thread that you're currently following on. All right. Next slide, please. So after the activity, there's that chat. We probably all have already used it. And I found it kind of funny to say, well, we're giving an intro to Teams, but they're joining via Teams. So we're going with the assumption that you've done some of these things, but maybe not all of these. So chat, I'm pretty sure you've all have had them. I love that I'm seeing Diane and Marianne and Susan. You guys are already posting in the chat. That means you're telling me you've used Teams before, so you understand. And when you do have conversations, whether it in this particular meeting there was a conversation with Gordon or there was a conversation with Bill Brent then and 12 other people, those conversations are all stored in the chat area. So you can always go back for those private or group chats. Understanding that group chats doesn't mean a team, but it is for an actual, hey, I invited Paul, I invited Susan, I invited Mary, and oh, and don't forget, we invited Stephen in as well. That's a group chat. So that's how you keep a track of your group chats and your private chats, one-on-one types of discussions. Next slide. We're not going to cover the differences between new teams and old teams, not in this session. I believe that might be next. All right. Additionally, continuing down the rail, calls. If you received a call, if you missed a call, somebody called you and you happen to be outside checking the mail, you're going to see a number or a little notification on that call saying you missed a call. You click on that and you can see who called you. Or if you say, hey, I called this person, I don't remember who it was, you can look through your history and see where that person was. That's who it was. I couldn't remember the name, but now when I see it, I remember who it is. If also someone leaves you a voicemail, because they can leave voicemails inside of Teams, you can access your voicemail, listen to it, and so forth. Okay. Questions so far? I know we've come down just a couple of the couple of icons on the rail. Just want to see if we have anything that's kind of popping up. You have any questions? Feel free to come off the mute. Just because Greg is talking doesn't mean I don't want to stop talking. I'm okay with stopping. How long do the recordings remain? Depending on your retention policy, and that will have to work with your team's administrators. Some of the recordings have a lifespan of 6 months. I think that's the default. That could be extended and so forth. And you should also get a notification of, hey, we're going to this recording is going to expire. If you want to keep it, then maybe move it somewhere else. All right, let's go down to the next slide for me, please. All right, now we're going to talk about teams. How do I know if I'm in a team? Well, in this particular example, when you click on that teams icon on the rail, it shows you a team. It shows you every team that you are a member of. Okay. When you become a member of a team, whether you're an owner or you're a member, because there's no such thing as a visitor when you're inside of teams, you are an owner or a member. Members can contribute to everything that exists. Okay. You would see that those teams would be listed there. For every team that you are a member or owner of, they're all going to be listed there. The cool thing is you can also drag and drop them. Maybe you're kind of like me. I like things in alphabetical order. So I start dragging and dropping things in alphabetical order. Then I realized, although A to Z sounds great, but I don't ever use A, B, C, D, E, or F. Let me move the G's above. And now that one, because that's the one I may go most primarily into, you can drag and drop those teams to organize them in an order which makes sense to you. So if you're in a team right now and you've got a whole stack of teams and you just don't like to always scroll down because there's one that you're active in, you can drag that team and drag it up to the top. So now it can be easily accessible without you scrolling down. Lots of good conversation going on in the chat, and Karen and Michelle, I appreciate you guys handling a lot of that for me. Appreciate that. Is Microsoft ever going to rename Teams and then Teams and Teams, which requires us to fill out a form for to get a SharePoint site? Guys, I'm going to tell you, they're not going to rename Microsoft Teams. But I will tell you, the reason Microsoft has a team site has nothing to do with Teams for SharePoint. SharePoint has had a team site template since 2001 when it was first created. And it was the original template, a team site template. Has nothing to do with Microsoft Teams. In SharePoint Online, it can, but it doesn't always have to. So if I need a team site because this is where my team is going to work, but I don't want Microsoft Teams, absolutely, you can request a team site template that does not have Teams, does not have a group connected with it. But I get the confusion. I really, really do. I want a team site, but I don't want another team in Microsoft Teams. Then ask for it as a non-group connected SharePoint site. So it is a bit confusing, and I'm sorry, but Microsoft's not going to rename Microsoft Teams because SharePoint has had a template for 24 years. They're not going to change it. They're just Microsoft Teams is Teams, and it needs SharePoint on the back end of it anyway. All right, let's go to the next slide. Lisa has asked, before I go into the calendar, Lisa, you brought up the question. I have a lot of groups that I'm still listed. Can I just delete the ones I don't want? You can, if I caution you, you can leave a team and then it disappears. But if you're an owner and you delete the team, you're deleting it for everyone. So you'll delete the team, you'll delete the SharePoint, you'll delete the files, you'll delete the calendar and the meetings. So be cautious if that's not what you want to do. If you want to delete because you created someone a long time ago and you're no longer using them, absolutely, those can be deleted if you're an owner. But if you're part of a team that you also happen to be an owner, if you delete that team from the Teams app, web version, or web client, or the mobile, you're going to delete it for everyone. Okay. You can hide, like I think Nereda said, you can hide them. Absolutely. You can right click and say hide. I don't want to see this anymore because I'm a part of it, but it's once every 11 months. Maybe I'm part of this Halloween committee. I don't need to be in it all the time. I just don't want to see it. You can definitely hide it. Okay. All right, so now the calendar on the sidebar icon, this is directly connected and it's individual, by the way, guys. This is for every one of you. This is your personal calendar inside of Teams. And what's great about it is that you can just jump over into the calendar and look at the meetings you got coming up, see which ones are Teams meetings that you got to join, click on it, and you don't even have to leave Teams. If I could ask the Teams people to do one more thing, is give me my email inside of Teams, I would never have to open up any other type of application. But that's just a Greg thing. So at least it's embedded with your calendar, so you know what meetings you have, and you could definitely directly join those Teams meetings via Teams. Next slide, please. Now, one thing to note, every Microsoft team has a SharePoint site behind it. Every single one of them, and they cannot be separated. So when you're in a Microsoft team and you're sharing files, those files are being stored to SharePoint. A very good friend of mine who happens to be working in the Department of IT for you guys for the great state of North Carolina, Rod Parrish, he says he defines Teams as the car you drive. SharePoint is the engine inside of that car. They have to work together. What good is a car that has no motor? SharePoint stores all the files that are shared and saved and collaborated on within those teams. Now, Prelude over here, this icon on your left rail is called OneDrive. This is for every file you've touched, every file that you've shared, every file that's shared with you, and sorted normally by the most recent. Hey, I know it worked on that file. I have no idea where I saved it. Go into here. And then you just do a little bit of scrolling. You're going to find the file because it starts with the most recent and it keeps going back historically. So use that OneDrive, because if you know there was a file, I worked on it with, what's his name? Oh, I can't even remember his name. Go into your OneDrive, take a peek. You'll be able to find that file there right away for yourself. Maybe not right away. It might have been something you worked on 3 weeks ago. So you might have to scroll a little, but all of those files inside of OneDrive, those are personal to each and every one of you. Tony, those are your files. Lynn, those are your files. You're not going to see Tony's, and Tony's not going to see Lynn's. Those are personal to you. Your OneDrive is your personal storage. Each and every one of you, in case you're wondering, gets 1 terabyte of storage. A full terabyte of just Word documents would equate to about 4 to 6 million documents. So you're not anywhere close to that. You don't have any worries about running out of space. So just know your OneDrive is where you work on things. You store those things, you finish them up. Maybe it's not ready for prime time. I don't want to put it in SharePoint because I'm still working on it. You don't want to put a work in progress out there for everybody. Cool. Work on it and it'll be saved in your OneDrive. Then publish it to SharePoint. Is there an easy way to see how you may have worked in OneDrive and then perhaps save the same file on my computer to see which file is the most current version to use? If you save it to your File Explorer OneDrive location, then it's automatically syncing to OneDrive. But if you save it to like ctemp, no, there's really not an option. I wouldn't recommend saving it in multiple places because your documents are also automatically synced to your OneDrive. Your pictures also automatically sync to OneDrive. Geraldine is asking, how do we find OneDrive in Teams? The image that you're seeing on the screen here from that's being shared should be on the left-hand side. If it's not, which I thought this was already pinned for you guys, but if it's not, we can add it. We can walk you through maybe at the end how to add that icon to your rail, Geraldine, if you'd like. Jackie has a question, which is pretty neat, a little bit off topic here. She says, if I delete the chat for this meeting, will I still be able to access the recording? Typically, in a conversation, one-on-one, you can't delete other people's conversations. You can only delete your own. This particular meeting is being recorded and transcribed. So even if you went through and deleted all of your own messages that you posted, Jackie, they're still going to be transcribed and saved. Okay. All right, let's go to the next slide, please. Learning pathways. Also, if this isn't pinned, I'm seeing that, hey, I don't have OneDrive on mine, I don't have this, I don't have that. Great. And I mean that in a good way, not sarcastically. We can add these things, and we'll walk you through. Let us get through some of these slides, and I'm gonna show you how you can add them to your Rail. Because if you want to access your OneDrive, you want to access this learning pathways, which this learning pathways is available to everyone in the great state of North Carolina. Michelle, what's up?
Hey, just want to let everyone know that we are in the process of rolling out new teams. So we do have a mix of users who have classic and a mix who have new. And what we are showing you today is new teams. So if you don't see exactly what Greg is showing, we will get you there. Just be patient as we roll out the new app.
Perfect. Thanks, Michelle. Appreciate that. So that could be why some of you are not seeing Teams, or excuse me, I keep saying Teams, not seeing OneDrive or seeing this learning pathway. This, guys, I got to tell you, I'm a super fan of this Microsoft 365 learning pathways. This is a site collection inside of your tenant that is available to you, and you all would be able to access all this types of free, which is free is for me, free 99, best price ever, free is available to you at any time. Michelle or Karen, can you post the link to that as well? Oh, look at that. Tiffany was your superstar here. She went ahead and added that learning pathways to her current Rail. Perfect. But this learning pathways, guys, if you want to learn how to do something in Teams or in OneDrive or in Outlook or in Excel there's a ton of free training. And the best part about it, guys, is if Microsoft makes a change, your learning pathways are directly tied to our support documents. So when we update our support documents, your site is also updated with the most current information. How many of us have gone and take some training and find out, oh, this is outdated. It was like 2-3 versions ago. They don't even look like this anymore. That's the beauty of this Microsoft 365 learning pathways. This will be updated anytime Microsoft makes an update. We make an update to our documents. Your training is also updated. Guys, if you have a moment and go find it, go log in, not even log in, just access it. There's also many how-to videos, and they're digestible, guys. They're not 12, 15-minute videos. They're not an hour and a half. They're between a minute and a minute and a half. Super digestible videos. How do I do this? Click. It's a minute, guys. Those are very easy videos to watch and learn how to do certain things. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Approvals. Now, yes, we are talking about the modern Teams client. Approvals is another thing that if you happen to be a manager or you're in the process of a flow that requires you to approve things, even if you're not a manager, maybe you're the finance guy or the procurement guy or gal, there are things that may require approvals. What's great is we can pin that to your Rail, and anytime you're dubbed to approve something, it will give it that little link. It'll give you that little notification. Hey, there's something for you to approve. You click on that and it takes you to that window, as you see on the right-hand side, where you can approve the things that you are required to approve. Very popular application that's been added into your Teams Rail. Next slide, please. All right, Viva Insights. Another big fan of this icon or this capability, because this kind of helps you with things that, hey, am I working too much? Do I not have time? Am I working 7 days a week? It's going to give you that insight and say, hey, you need to schedule some personal time, or you need to schedule some focus time because you've got so many meetings. you're never able to catch up on your emails, you're never able to catch up on your team's conversation, put in this focus time. You would even recommend, hey, how about putting in an hour every day from 11:30 to 12:30 for your focus time so you can don't get interrupted with Teams messages. You can focus on those emails, focus on projects or your mental health. Guys, I'm here to tell you, your mental health is equally important to your physical health. And taking a break from your screen is so important. I teach a ton of Microsoft classes and I love to educate and pass on the knowledge that I have. But I purposely, the top of every hour, say, I don't care where we are in the slides, we are taking a break. And I encourage everyone, step away from your keyboard, step away from your phone, go outside, check the mail, put the dogs out, do something that doesn't involve this blue light from these screens because it's unhealthy to sit in front of it all day. That is part of your mental health, and that is important too. So this Viva Insights will give you some information just like that as well, and it's personal to each one of you. Okay. Next slide. All right, we're going to cover a couple of things on functionality. Let me read this question to you. Will you be talking about our status, meaning do not disturb? Just so I know, Diana, you're talking about like the do not disturb, away, online, presenting. Is that the types of status? Okay, cool. Didn't have that built in, but would love to talk about it. Would you bring your Teams client up on the screen, Michelle, please? All right, so if you notice all the way in the upper right-hand corner, she has her cute little picture of herself up there. And if we click on that, you see she's currently in the status of presenting. Go ahead and click expand that. Now, there are other options. Sometimes you want to say, hey, you know what? I got my nose down and I really got to work on this project. You can appear offline. You'll still get your messages. It doesn't take you technically offline, but it doesn't also interrupt you with every ping that comes in. You'll still get your messages, but it'll show that, oh, well, she's offline. I won't bother her right now. I can appear away. It's like, oh, I wanted to ask him, but he must be at lunch, so I'll bug him later. Maybe that can also be, I don't want to say a deterrent because people still like to ping you any time of the day and night, but it could be a deterrent to say, hey, they're away. Maybe they're at lunch. They went to dinner with the family, whatever the case might be. You also have the ability to put in a duration. Hey, I want to be away for the rest of the day or for an hour, or there's even ways to customize it for the next 44 minutes, whatever you choose. Okay, you have those options also. And one more thing, let's go back into your statuses. Um, and when you're done, you could do say, hey, let me reset. But now remember, when you are in meetings, if you've accepted a meeting, even if you don't attend the meeting, I meant to go, but I'm super busy, your little red bubble is going to come up because it's based off of your calendar. So if you're in a meeting that you've accepted, or even if you're not in the meeting, but it's for that meeting time, you will have a red bubble saying busy. Okay. What's the difference between appearing offline versus appearing away? Besides the color, offline could be like, well, maybe he or she's traveling. Their computer is shut down for the day. There really isn't a difference other than appearing away says, I'm away, maybe somebody won't write me. If you appear offline, it's just kind of more of the I'm disconnecting. So, and like I said, it sometimes it could act like as a deterrent for them to say, well, I'm not going to really write him. He seems to be offline. I'll wait till he gets back online, then I'll bug him. Okay. All right, let's go back to PowerPoint, please. And thank you. Yes, Lynn, the Teams calendar and your Outlook calendar. Yeah, so since we're still in since we're still in your Teams client, I was going to say, let's click on the calendar. It brings up your personal calendar. Oh gosh, I forget what slide we were on. Oh yeah, there we go, functionality. All right. Go ahead and let's go to the next slide, please. Now, we're all muted. I think that was the default when you entered your microphone was muted. It's okay to be unmuted too. You know, if you've got questions, come off of mute. You don't always have to post them into the conversation. You can say, hey, hold on, Greg, I don't see that. Or, hey, Greg, can you tell me why this shows that way? Mine, currently, because I'm an outsider, I'm not a North Carolina employee, I am a Microsoft employee. Right now, for this particular meeting, I don't have camera, I don't have share, I only have the microphone. I can mute, unmute. As you can see nowadays, we're remote most of the time. Things like my dog, man, the doorbell rings. I got both of them going. My doorbell and my dogs are going crazy. Amazon happened to stop by. Oh, my dogs hate them. My dogs go nuts. I got to mute. Or my neighbor chooses to mow the grass right as I start a meeting. It's a whole bunch of reasons. And it's easy to just unmute. You just click it again. Okay. Next slide. Okay. Camera. Before you go into a meeting, you can turn on your camera if you want. These are one of those options that you can do prior to a meeting. Like maybe, I'm going to turn my camera off, phone off, because I don't want people to see me because I'm still not dressed for the day and my dog's snoring next to me. Typical home scenario. So you turn them off or can turn them on. Okay, next. Now, if someone says, hey, since you're talking, can we see you? Yeah, absolutely. You see that icon down below? It's got that slash. That means your camera is off. Click it and it turns it on. In this particular meeting that we're in, this webinar, I think everybody's cameras are disabled, so we can't turn it on right now. But we can definitely turn it on in a regular meeting. Okay. Next slide, please. This is one I'm a big fan of.
Greg, quick question. I saw something that said Copilot. What is Copilot?
Ooh. Copilot, where was that on our previous slide?
Yes.
Can you go back one?
Right there, that one. Two backwards from camera.
Yeah, okay. So this was a screen capture from my computer. So Microsoft Copilot is Microsoft's AI, which by the way, is coming to the state of North Carolina. And when you get your Copilot, you're going to go, where has this been all my life? Okay, Sebastian is already using it. He's probably using it at home. If you use Microsoft Edge, it's built in. You can do some really cool. Because I know I'm gonna finish a little. I might finish a little late, but can you bring up your browser, please, Michelle? And take me to bing.com. This is available outside the state of North Carolina. This is at home, like I see others are using it. I'm using it at home. Your browser, for example, she's going to bring up here Microsoft Edge with Bing. Now you see where it says search the web. There's that little colorful icon at the end of that. Would you click on that for me? You can ask Copilot to do a bunch of stuff, say return to Bing. So right now it's going to tell you, it takes you a little bit, what do you want to know about Copilot? But you can also tell Copilot, hey, design me a picture of a fluffy white poodle sitting on the beaches of Nag's Head with those light towers in the background. And it would design that for you. Yeah, go ahead, on the beach. Now go ahead and click the little the Copilot icon. It's unavailable because you're in your current tenant. It's trying to use your tenant. Your tenant doesn't have it yet. But these are some things that you can do at home on your personal computer. I did my last presentation at 11 o'clock, and almost every image in my presentation was created by Copilot. And I just said, design me a picture that has this, that. Absolutely, it's all in there. All right, let's go back to the PowerPoint. So that's what Copilot is. It's going to be an AI. It's going to be your personal assistant when it comes your way. You're going to love it. You can tell it, hey, I missed this meeting. Can you summarize the transcription? Was there any mentions for me to do? Were there any takeaways? And it's going to be The best. Meredith, I love to know that your father loves Copilot. I do too. I can't live without it. All right, back to my slides. You can set your background. Sometimes maybe you just don't want to see your I love me wall. There's my diploma, there's my kids' pictures, my grandchildren, my grandparents. Maybe you don't want everybody to see that stuff. You can configure your background by clicking that little three dots, it's called the ellipse, and then go into video effects and settings. You can choose to use one of the ones that Microsoft gives you, or you can add your own. Just upload a picture. Maybe it's a picture of a boat because you're a big boater guy. Awesome. Throw that in the background. It's a fantastic way to get rid of, or maybe just say, hey, you know what? I don't mind my love me wall, my family wall, but I'm just going to blur it because I don't really like people seeing my kids. Cool, blur it. Absolutely. So some options that you can do when you choose, and you can select a different background setting. The blur option is you'd have to scroll down. Oh, actually, no, it's the second icon up there. I got an arrow to it. It's standard blur. You can see me well, but everything behind me is blurred. Pretty cool option. Which, by the way, funny fact is, we didn't even have that when we deployed Teams, and Zoom did. And we were like, oh, snap, how did we miss that? We quickly implemented the blur, and hey, we caught up to Zoom. Now we're way past Zoom. All right, next slide, please. Okay. In our conversation today, I love that there was, I think Michelle raised her hand. That's a way to ask a question without coming off a mute and interrupting. The guys or the person presenting is just on a roll and doesn't ever take a breath. How does he keep going? Okay, well, let me just pop my hand up. He'll see it. He'll pause and say, sure, man, what's up? What's the question that you have for me? So that's a great way to ask a question without coming off a mute and just cutting the person off. It's a polite way. Okay. Next. Teams management. So this is where we kind of talked a little bit earlier, like if I delete team, you can delete it for everything. Teams owners, as you can see, you can add or remove members. You can delete the entire team as well, including things like the team picture. Maybe you just don't like that it has the two letters. Maybe I want to put a picture for it. This happens to be, like I said earlier, I'm sorry, somebody's mic hot. This happened to be, I'm a part of the team that's for the Halloween committee. So I want to I can make that team have a picture of a pumpkin. Okay? You have the ability to set certain permissions. Maybe we don't want people to use and everyone in the team gets a notification. Maybe that's people are abusing it. You can turn it off as an owner. So by now, I'm sure you've read all the little bullets under these. These are some cool things and some of the responsibilities as an owner. And stealing a line from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. These are what you're responsible as an owner that you can do. Next slide, please. I love your question, Hugo. Give me a minute. I'm going to get back to that. So I want to talk a little bit about channels. Channels is how we organize these conversations. If I happen to be in a marketing department, not everything's marketing. Some things could be the images we're going to use for marketing. Some things could be the budget that we receive for this particular year. Something could be public relations. We need to have those conversations in organized locations, not all in one. Okay. How do you know who your owner is? I'll show you. We'll show you that in here in a little bit. Okay.
Hey,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes, Tiffany.
Greg, we lost you for a minute there of audio. I'm not sure if you can start back over that previous slide or not.
Okay. Can you hear me now, though?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Thanks,
can.
Tim. Okay.
Your
Well, let's
last
go back
comment
to-
was about Spider-Man.
So you heard with great power comes great responsibility. Perfect.
And
So
that's where we
what great-
lost you.
Ah, that's a shame. Well, it's a great line. I mean, we all know it. All right. So And that was right where I was segueing from that slide into here. So we went from being an owner, we've got things we've got to do. We can manage things. Someone asked, how do I know if I'm an owner or who's the owner? I'll show you how we can do that a little bit later on. But now when we go into a team, we also want to make sure our data and our conversations are organized. For example, I think I gave the scenario of, hey, if I'm in the marketing department, we can't have all discussions in one channel. Every team comes with the general channel. Love the main, Meredith. Love it, love it, love it. But in marketing, we can maybe have discussions about our budget. And then we could also have discussions about the public relations. We can have a discussions about some of the marketing images we're going to use. If that's all in one channel, things can get lost. Whereas if we create separate for those types of conversations, not only is the conversations organized, but also the files. Hey, here's the images that I was considering for going on.
Yeah, they've got some more people who've lost audio again. I'm not sure if it's tied into the fact that we're having server issues in North Carolina or not.
Oh boy. Yeah, I see some people hearing and some don't. Well, on a positive note, I'm seeing now there's a lot of people saying, I can hear. When we finish, guys, you're going to get all of the slides. So, and the transcription will also be available. My internet is super strong, so I don't know what's happening. I'm so sorry. Let's go to the next slide. All right, we talked about channels, keeping that organization of your conversations and files. So be mindful that, hey, if we're having separate discussions, we seem to have this type of discussion, let's make a channel for that topic. Okay. And as you see on the bullet bottom down there, it says every channel is public to all the team members. That doesn't mean everyone in the state of North Carolina, only the members of the team, members and owners of the team. Okay, next slide. When someone messages you and does an at notification, so the image on the right hand side here, you see that development has a 1. That means somebody mentioned me in the development channel. But the social media and the website, they're kind of bold. That means there's new messages that I have missed. People have posted new things out there, new conversations, new discussions, but I have to go back and read them because they're bolded. That's the notification of how you know when you've missed some information. I think that brings me to the end. What's the next slide, please? Okay, yeah, so I have questions. I do see there's a lot of questions going on in the chat here. Let me see if I can pick one. I have additional teams questions or private or need assistance in teams. Who would be our point of contact? Is that Michelle? Is Michelle, you're our team's rep?
I will post the agency admin in here, depending on where you're at. Each agency has their own administrator, so just be patient. I'll post that in just a second.
Awesome, thank you. Hugo, you had a question. Get your hand up. I like it. Thank you.
I did. I just wanted to see if there's a feature where something can be described into a different language than English, just because I work with outreach with the Department of Natural Cultural Resources. And sometimes I work with NGCs that are strictly Spanish.
Perfect. You've got my gold star question of the day. So transcription can be, but now that you're bringing it up to the attention of Department IT, this is one of the things we need to make sure is turned on, the transcription into other languages, because by default, it's English and we're in the US. But if you definitely require transcription, taking this transcription and transcribing it into Spanish, if that's the other preferred language, that's something they can easily enable. But work with Karen and Michelle to say, hey, this is something that Department of Agriculture really needs, and can we make sure that gets turned on? Ooh, somebody changed it to French. Lynn, you had a question for me.
Yes, I've been given the responsibility to try to clean up the teams for my department. And I see that there's a lot of duplication of some line items in there. If I delete those, does it delete it? Does that, are they gone forever, or I needed to pull them back because somebody said, why did you delete that? I need that. I just got to clean up the team functionality, and I'm just a little leery of moving stuff around, not knowing what would happen to it. Is there a way you can describe how best to do that?
Sure, and it's not a atypical scenario. It happened a lot. Why? Because COVID happened and we all got thrown to the four winds, and now I've got all these teams that could have probably been one team or two teams. Now, how do we merge them? That is where the difficulty lies. And I'm going to tell you honestly, to carry back the conversation that you had from a previous or from a separate team, so what may need to end up happening is archiving that conversation and having it out there. If someone needs to refer to it at some point, then that team can be deleted. Moving the files over is the easy part. Hey, somebody shared a bunch of files. Cool. We'll just bring them over. That's the easy part. The also other difficult part is all the recurring meetings that may have happened or are happening or if will happen. Those also, someone's either going to have to take them off of that other and put them into the new one. So there really isn't a consolidation capability inside of Teams.
You said there is or is not?
Is not.
And if
Sorry.
I delete something, is it like gone? I can never go back and get it.
I'd have to look at the retention policy. My initial reaction is going to be like, no, you can try and delete all a bunch of stuff you want, but it's still being kept because it is a government agency and we're retaining everything forever, but I don't know exactly for how long.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I know there was a block coming through. Belinda, hello.
If there is a way, I did post this in the chat, but if there is a way to be able to save or download chats, for example, I work for PNC, and so when we're meeting with vendors and they have a lot of, questions or, feedback or things like that, if there was a way that we could maybe download that to save that into our files, that would be really helpful.
And yes, there is an option to export Teams chats. What I'll do is let me see if I can find you a nice little how-to, and I'll put that into the chat here as well. Copy and paste. Do you have advice on how to make Teams work better with outside of state government folks? Diane, would you expand on that for me, please?
Experience is that Microsoft Teams works pretty well for those of us in state government. But then when we're involved in coalitions or other things and we're trying to use Teams, like it just seems like they can't access some of the features quite as well. They're, considered outside users, so sometimes they don't see chats. It just seems like there's a myriad of issues that happen in Teams and other, things we have like SharePoint that are just harder with outside partners.
So wonderful question. And that's something we probably will need to take up with the governance board. Most of the capabilities and features that are maybe enabled and disabled, like for me, I'm an external guy. I'm a Microsoft guy. I work for the state of North Carolina, folks, but I can't even use my camera or use a share in this meeting because I'm external. So that some of those decisions were made by the governance board for external collaboration, limiting to ensure that we don't have bad actors on some of those other outside folks, but definitely not brushing your question away, Diane. Your question is absolutely valid, but this is something you're going to want to take up with the Department of IT and whoever the governance board is on the decisions between Microsoft Teams and external.
Yeah. I mean, well, I just think, and your point was well said. And I mean, I think as state employees, we could certainly put a whole list together of why we're not being very customer friendly with perhaps some of the barriers that are put into place, well intentioned for lots of good reasons. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Jackie.
Hey, so my question from earlier was a little different than what you answered.
Okay.
What I was asking is that I've been in Teams meetings before, and you know how people will respond to the team chats after and after and after. And so I can go over and I can delete that chat. But if the recording is posted in that chat, is there a way that I could still get the recording even if I delete the chat?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're deleting the chat, that's fine. It's still not going to delete those sections from the recordings. So
No,
that
but what I'm
information-
saying is if I delete the chat so it doesn't show up, for example, in my recent anymore, in my Teams, I know that anything that I say or anything that I write in there is still going to be in the chat. But if I delete that chat and the recording is what's posted in the chat, is there a way for me to go back and get that recording if I
I
left
get
the
it.
chat?
Sorry, my Teams light bulb finally just turned on.
That's fine.
Thank you, thank you. So you won't be able to get it unless somebody shares it with you. Because if you delete the chats, like, hey, I don't want to see this anymore, delete, right click on, you can't access the chat, not unless someone posts back into it and it shows back up. Because you really didn't leave. If you leave the chat, then that makes it even worse than just deleting the chat. So if you delete, which you can, but unless somebody continues the conversation, you won't be able to get back in to get to the recording.
Okay, so if I save the recording or I download it, can I do that before I delete the chat from my Teams?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, perfect. Thank you.
You're so welcome.